As the Corporal of Horse of One Troop Lifeguards, I'm responsible for the stable management of all the horses in my troop, and I'm responsible for the welfare of the 18 men who work for me in the troop, of which approximately 4 or 5 are junior non-commissioned officers.
Guard, by the front! Return! Set!
Well, the Household Cavalry comprises of 2 regiments, of which one is stationed in Germany and one is stationed in England. At the moment, the Blues and Royals are in Germany, in Detmold, and the Lifeguards are at Windsor. The London side of things is really a squadron from each regiment, which live permanently in London in Knightsbridge Barracks. And there, each squadron, either of Lifeguards or Blues and Royals, have 4 troops, and each troop having about 34 horses. When I've dismounted the Queen's Lifeguard, I hand my horse over to one of the troopers who hasn't been a Queen's Lifeguard duty that day, and then the whole guard get changed into working dress to brush up the stables, lay the feeds round, make sure that the horse has got water and that he's been cared for, and that all is clean and tidy for the squadron leader's inspection. I joined the army at 16, and I was badged to the 13th, 18th Hussars, but in the last 6 months of training as a junior leader, I went to the Horse of the Year show as part of an arena party for that show. And during that show, there was a display by the Household Cavalry Regiment, and it was there that I decided that my heart was for the Household Cavalry rather than for the 13th, 18th Hussars. Having completed my training as a Saladin armoured car driver, I served 6 months with the regiment in England, and then we were all shipped over to the Far East, went on active service in Borneo. I did a chieftain driver's instructor's course back in Bovington, and then joined the Lifeguard Service Regiment in Germany, where I took over a troop of tanks and became a troop corporal of horse in one of the service squadrons. During the 2-year tour in Germany, the regiment was posted to Northern Ireland, where we became infantrymen on the streets of East Belfast. When I got back to Germany, I decided that I wanted to come to London and work with horses. So, in preparation for this, I was able to take over the stables in Germany. Having completed that year, I arrived in Knightsbridge, London, and passed through riding school, and then took a position in the mounted squadron. The people who are not involved tomorrow with the inter-troop competition, either show jumping or tent pegging, will then go up to the rooms with the junior non-commissioned officers that aren't involved and carry on with room cleaning. The remainder, boots, breeches, number 2 dress, with the lancers and kit down to Kensington Palace Fields. The horses on the board that are to be ridden for the tent pegging and show jumping. Anybody else, you'll have to do work tonight for the room inspection tomorrow for the Major General. I certainly try to ensure that each man has his own horse for 2 reasons. A, that he will form a relationship with that horse in that he grooms it, he exercises it, and he looks after the equipment revolving around that horse. And B, that it creates a competitive spirit, particularly when he goes on Queen's Lifeguard, which is the main reason why we're here, to fulfill the Queen's Lifeguard and all Sovereign's escorts. So, having got the competitive spirit, we try to ensure that each man turns out to the highest standard that is possible. The relationship with the horse, obviously, that it becomes a loving creature to the man, and that he takes extreme care to make sure that it's groomed correctly and that all its needs and wants are looked after to the fullest. Just going to stick the crop or the whip underneath the horse's tail, which will then hold the tail away from the hindquarters so I can get rid of some of this hair, which is quite thick at the top of the tail there. We do this for presentation. There are two ways of looking after a horse's tail. Either you have it natural with a load of hair which comes out, which a lot of civilian horses are, or in the army at least, we have our tails pulled, which is done for presentation. Doesn't hurt them very much. Most horses will just stand still and allow you to pull the few hairs at a time from their tails.
Come on, up.
What we do every day is to ensure that a horse's hooves are well looked after, that they are picked out daily, and having picked out the horse's hooves, that we lime them up. By doing this, we ensure that any dampness which would be in the foot is dried out by the lime, and it prevents the horse from getting a disease called thrush. I've had my own horse for just over 2¼ years. I had him when he passed out as a remount after his just over 6 months training, and I've had him ever since. I ride him on Queen's Lifeguard, I ride him on escorts, and at weekends during the winter season, as far as possible, I try to take him to as many hunter trials where we compete not only as individuals, but either in pairs or in team races.
Next pair, please, is number 219.
The competitions that we enter are done on a squadron basis, and any team event is entered as a lifeguards team. Similarly, the Blues and Royals do a similar thing, but not always do we go to the same competition.
I think you go well in this swim.
Oh, I forgot the ring of his tail. Oh, steady. When we go to shows, my family, my wife and my little boy come along to assist in the turning out, Alfred in particular, who is my own horse, and they also give encouragement to do well at all shows. So my wife acts as an unpaid groom. The greater majority of our horses are bought by a buying commission in Southern Ireland. Black horses only for the household cavalry, although we do have a number of grey horses which act as trumpeters' greys. And the horses are then shipped over to England, where they're vetted, sized, and should there be any rejects, they're taken out at this point. In approximately October, the squadron leaders and the troop leaders and troop corporals of horse go down to Windsor and select horses for the two squadrons. Every year we name our horses by a letter of the alphabet. This year we're working on the letter C, and in my troop at this present moment I have 3 remounts which haven't completed their training, and their names are Calcutta, Cardinal and Cambridge. So my horse, Alfred, is 8 years old, was bought in 1975 as a 5-year-old.
227 and 228.
Well, we'll ride every fence that we can as a pair. There's no problem with the first one. With the second one, we'll just steady up, trot down through the dip as you did on the individual.
Pull right back in.
Yeah, pull right back, plop over that. Again, as soon as we're over the bush fence, you'll have to pull up, because it's a sharp right-hander over the stile, then along the bank, over the drop fence again, no trouble there. The in and out should be able to do as a pair, so
yes.
whoever gets first,
Yes.
ease up in the field,
Yes.
and then as a pair for the last fence, and then
That's right.
straight home. No problem.
3, 2, 1, go. 235, 237 away. Number 235, Bologna, ridden by Lance Corporal of the Horse Sanderson, and number 237, Alfred, Corporal of the Horse Slater. As they come to it, just lengthen and jump and then completely together again in the air. together again. Now they've got to pull up and go very sharply. Right-handed and left, back to this style. They come along now and they've got to turn left-handed down to the drop fence. They're being asked to go to it now. Jump it well, jump it together, but still going very steadily indeed. As they go to this second knockdown fence, the sleepers with the rail on top. Just going and jumping it now, but they jump it superbly. Into the wood with a slight little drop. It is not the best takeoff coming into it. We have to turn around now to these permanent hunt fences, a double. And they jump it superbly together.
At the inspection before we go on Queen's Lifeguard, the adjutant or the officer of the day inspects each man in turn and gives him a score out of 15. This is cut in two, half for the horse and half for the man. The two scores are then totaled, and in doing this, this is where the competitive spirit comes into it, in that the cleanest man on guard, or the cleanest four men on guard, will get the better reliefs, and the people with the lowest score get the worst hours. A horse on Queen's Lifeguard, or on any state occasion, is equipped with a set of black saddlery. The head kit has a Banbury bit, or we term it as a state bit, which is quite severe and should only be used with care when riding the horse. The saddles are a military style saddle which have been used since the last war, and possibly even before then. And the saddle is covered with a white sheepskin for the lifeguard squadron, black sheepskin for the blues. The idea of this is the fact that the sheepskin would give a more comfortable ride for people in years gone by who used to travel a great distance when going to war. The military way of riding is completely different to that of the civilian method. Your legs are far straighter, and you don't do a rising trot. You sit deep into the saddle and kind of bounce in the saddle rather than rising up and down. The Queen's Lifeguard for that day leaves barracks approximately at 10:30 and rides down the carriage road via Wellington Arch, Constitution Hill and the Mall to Horse Guards Parade Ground. At exactly 11 o'clock, the new guard must arrive at Horse Guards. guards form up facing each other, and having been dressed off by the guard commander, they then pay compliments to each other.
All guard, slow, shots! You guard, look, touch! All guard, carry, shots! You guard, carry, touch! All guard, slow, shots! You guard, slow, touch! Oh God! Sit up! Ace!
State dress for non-commissioned officers and troopers consists of a metal helmet, which is highly polished, with a white plume, which used to be shredded whalebone. In fact, it's now nylon. When on mounted duty, we wear our cuirasses, which are again metal and have to be polished with metal polish. So does the sword, which is a sabre, a red tunic, which is worn underneath, and the breeches that we wear are a buckskin leather, which have to be whitened, and leather jackboots, which are not in fact patent leather, as a lot of people think. They're just ordinary heavy-duty leather with a lot of hard work and black polish applied to them to create such a brilliant, deep black shine.
To your boxers! Walk! March!
I think everybody in the Household Cavalry Regiment Mounted thoroughly enjoys putting on a spectacle for the public. Primarily, we fulfil the Queen's Lifeguard on alternate days with the Blues and Royals Squadron. And when required, we fulfil Sovereign's escorts for either the reigning sovereign at the time or for foreign heads of state when they are on a state visit to this country. It's a great honour to be able to travel with the reigning sovereign on escorts and any other occasion revolving round the sovereign, and I'm sure that everybody within the Household Cavalry Regiment Mounted enjoys doing these occasions.